here in Brezov, taking the bus to Bran. That is the bus. Bran? 8. He said only one way.
One way, did he?
Yeah.
Okay.
I asked him for 2 and he said 1. Yeah, I guess you can't buy them at the same time. So. And looks like that is it. The Bran Castle here in the village of Bran, also called the Dracula Castle. However, it is kind of loosely associated with the Dracula story. The fellow that the whole story about Dracula, Count Dracula, is based on is Vlad the Impaler, and he might have lived here at one point or whatever. It isn't like this is the castle that he stayed in for his whole life or anything. There are various points around Romania that are associated with the the whole story of Vlad the Impaler, who was a real guy, a historical figure who apparently pushed back the Turks, the Ottomans, from invading this area and taking over, which very well may have kept Europe from being invaded by the Ottomans and taken over. And so he was a important guy, although definitely not a nice guy by the sounds of it, the Impaler, for impaling his enemies. So I'm going to check out the town here just a little bit and then head up and see the castle. A very classic little village here. Wood burning stove, I guess. And still some snow left. It was snowing a few days ago when I arrived in Brezov. And here we are in Tourist Central. Well, it looks like this is the way to the castle, so head on in. So apparently there's a different castle that is actually kind of more associated with the Count Dracula story, and the movie, the Bram Stoker's Dracula movie, may have been more based on that location, and it is near the border of Moldova, which is a smaller country between Romania and Ukraine. And so it's probably kind of more for tourist purposes that this got called the Count Dracula Castle, just to kind of center the story somewhere and bring people here. Check that thing out. What a cross. Bran Castle. In order to fortify the strategic Bran Pass known since Roman times, the Teutonic Knights built a citadel in the 13th century, most probably on the site where the castle stands today. This citadel was destroyed in subsequent battles. Fearing the menacing Turks and equally insecure in relations with Wallachia, Tara Romanyaska, King Ludovic began to build citadels at the borders of the Hungarian kingdom. In order to secure the defense of Transylvania, the control and surveillance of the Bran Pass was essential. November 19, 1377, the king issued the birth document of Bran Castle. Cool. Queen Maria of Romania. On December 29, 1892, she married Ferdinand von Hohenzollern, the Crown Prince of Romania. Vlad the Impaler's favorite torture method. Wow. That's how he got his nickname. And so I'm going to try to explain some of what I learned inside the castle there, the various plaques inside that had a lot of information. So this castle was built in the late 1300s. There was another one that was built at the same spot a century before that, but that was destroyed. And then this was built around like 1377. Vlad the Impaler lived in the 1400s and was a prince, and then I guess became king. And he ruled over this area kind of in conjunction with the Turks, as I understand it. he like knew the culture and the language and stuff, and then at some point he became opposed to them and was involved in you know, fighting against them and pushing them back, something like that. That is just kind of the general idea. And as you can see there, then he had very brutal techniques for torturing his enemies. That's a great shot of the castle there. What a monstrous rock it's built on. And so I'm going to walk down the road here. I saw some other ruins from up there on like the other side of the river down the road a little bit, and so I'm going to walk over there and just take a look at what's there and then explain a little bit more here. The Magic Cafe. So there's a little bridge right there over the river. And so Bram Stoker was a man who was born in Dublin, Ireland in 1847, and he ended up moving to London and becoming involved with the theater there. And he became an author. And he is the author of the book Dracula. He never actually visited this area here of Eastern Europe at all. But somehow in London, then he had access to like historical documents that talked about the history of this area. And so he became acquainted with the history of this area and the legends of Vlad the Impaler, and also various local myths of the culture of this region, which included myths about strange supernatural creatures. And so they had superstitions in this area about, you know, if you do the wrong things and you become this weird creature. And this corresponds with the, you know, ideas about vampires and how they avoid the sunlight and don't like garlic and onions and all this kind of stuff. It's actually based in the like historical record, the traditions of this area. And so Bram Stoker was a writer, and he learned about this area and Vlad and these strange myths, and he basically mixed them all together and came up with this book about Dracula. And so the Dracula story is a, you know, fictional story, but it is based on true facts from this area. And so he just kind of mixed together different things, different individuals probably to make up the Dracula person, and then mix that all together with the local legends. And wrote the book Dracula, which became the second most popular selling book in the world after the Bible at the time that it was written. And then of course, you know, the movies came out based on the book. And so the castle there was a very strategic castle at this point in this valley to protect the area for centuries. And the whole Dracula story is just kind of a blip in its history. I guess Vlad the Impaler was actually raised in the town of, and I'm going to totally butcher the name on this one, Sigiswara, which is north of here, and that is where I'm going next tomorrow. It is a smaller town than Brasov, I think bigger than this town here, but it looks really beautiful. I will go there on the way to Cluj after that. A little chapel here. And a much more recently constructed church, it looks like. And some like totem poles, wow. Obviously not totem poles, but something similar. All right, I'm going to end this video here, head back into town there, catch the bus back to Brashov, and then tomorrow going to Sighisawara. After that, to Cluj, and then flying somewhere new, a new country, my 54th country. So lots more coming. See ya.